Once again, हामीहरू आज फेरि यही धर्मका कुराहरू सिक्न र जान्न हामी यहाँ उपस्थित भएका छौं। सर्वप्रथम बुद्ध धर्म संघलाई वन्दना गरौँ है। नमो रत्नत्रयस्य. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Okay. सधैँ झैं आज हामीहरू हरेक महिनाको एक बार यसरी भेटघाट गरी कोही ध्यानका कुराहरू र ध्यान भावना गर्ने क्रममा हामीहरू सम्मिलित भएका छौं। भगवान बुद्धको धर्मलाई हेर्ने हो भने एउटा धर्म उहाँले बताउनु भएको छ, त्यसलाई बहु उपकारी धर्म है। बहु उपकारी भनिसकेपछि थाहा पाउन सकिन्छ कि कतिको उपकार गर्ने धर्म होला है। बहु उपकार धर्म भनेर भनिन्छ। अब त्यो उपकार गर्ने धर्म भनेर हेर्ने हो भने त्यो दुई धर्मलाई सती र सम्पजन्य धर्म भनिन्छ। यदि हामीमा स्मृति र सम्प्रजन्य हरपल हरक्षण छन् भने हामीहरूलाई चाहिँ नि कहिल्यै दुःख हुँदैन रे। के राम्रो हो के नराम्रो हो, कुन चीज गर्नु ठीक छ कुन चीज गर्नु ठीक छैन भन्ने विषयमा हामीलाई चाहिँ नि राम्रो ज्ञान दिइराख्ने धर्मलाई चाहिँ नि बहु उपकारक धर्म भनेर भनिन्छ। त्यसैले यदि हामीमा स्मृति हरपल हरक्षण छन् भने हामीलाई चाहिँ सुख प्राप्ति हुन्छ। त्यसलाई इंग्लिशमा अब ग्रेट एसिस्टेन्ट भन्छ है। ग्रेट एसिस्टेन्ट टिचिङ्स, द भर्च्यू अफ द ग्रेट एसिस्टेन्ट भनेर माइन्डफुलनेस एन्ड क्लियर कम्प्रिहेन्सन भनेर दिइन्छ। अब यो माइन्डफुलनेस र क्लियर कम्प्रिहेन्सन दुईटा धर्म अथवा स्मृति र सम्प्रजन्य यदि हामीले विकास गर्न सक्यौं भने, अभ्यास गर्न जान्यौं भने हामीलाई चाहिँ नि सुख शान्ति मिल्छ। हर पलमा सुख शान्ति भइराखेको हुन्छ। तर यदि स्मृति छैन भने लापरवाही काम गर्न जान सक्छ र नराम्रो कामहरूतिर गर्न पनि जान सक्छ। त्यसको फल चाहिँ नि फेरि दुःखदायी हुन्छ। यो सती र स्मृति र सम्प्रजन्य धर्मलाई कहिलेकाहीँ चाहिँ नि पर्सनल एसिस्टेन्टको रूपमा पनि लिइन्छ, जसले हामीलाई यो गर्नु हुँदैन, त्यो गर्नु हुँदैन भनेर हामीलाई चाहिँ सम्झना दिइराख्ने, वार्निङ दिइराख्ने धर्म भनेर बुझिन्छ। अब यदि हामीले कसैलाई चाहिँ नि स्यालेरी दिएर एकजना एसिस्टेन्ट राख्यौं र जहाँ गए पनि जहाँ जुन चीज काम गरे पनि मैले नराम्रो काम गर्यो भने, मैले नराम्रो काम सोच्यो भने, मैले नराम्रो काम गर्नतिर लाग्यो भने मलाई के यो चेतना देऊ है भनेर चाहिँ पैसा दिएर एकजना असिस्टेन्ट राख्यो भने त्यो असिस्टेन्टले पनि फेरि के गर्छ त, उसको टाइम अनुसार आउँछ र काम गरेर जान्छ है। तर 24 घण्टा हामीसँग हुँदैन। त्यसो भएर त्यो असिस्टेन्ट पैसा दिए पनि हामीलाई चाहिँ नि पूर्ण रूपले सहयोग नदिने भएको हुँदा त्यो चाहिँ नि जतिसुकै राम्रो एसिस्टेन्ट किन नहोस् त्यो चाहिँ नि पूर्ण हुँदैन। तर जब हामीले यो सति र सम्पजान्यलाई विकास गर्न सक्यौं, हाम्रो मन मस्तिष्कमा पलाउन जान्यौं भने र उसैको अनुसार अभ्यास गर्न जान्यौं भने त्यसबाट के हुन्छ त भन्दा हामीलाई चाहिँ नि सधैँ चेतावनी दिइराख्छ, हामीमा चाहिँ नि चेतना आइराखेको हुन्छ है। त्यो चेतनाको कारणले नै हामीहरू चाहिँ सुख शान्ति पाउन सक्छौं। अब स्मृति हाम्रो संस्कृतिमा स्मृति भन्छ, पालीमा सति भनिन्छ। त्यो भनेको इङ्ग्लिसमा भन्यो भने एटेन्टिभनेस अथवा माइन्डफुलनेस अथवा अवेयरनेस भनिन्छ। त्यो भनेको नै जुन कुनै चिज अथवा काम कुराहरू गरिराखेको समयमा स्मृतिवान भएर बस्ने अथवा होस बनाएर राख्ने धर्मलाई चाहिँ नि पहिलो एसिस्टेन्टको रूपमा लिन्छ, त्यसलाई स्मृति भनिन्छ। त्यो स्मृति बढाउनको लागि नै फेरि हामीहरू ध्यान भावना गर्ने गर्दछौँ है, ध्यान भावनाहरू गर्ने गर्दछौँ। जति जति हामीले ध्यान गऱ्यौँ, जति जति हामीलाई ध्यानको विषयमा थाहा पायो, त्यति त्यति नै यो स्मृति चाहिँ झन्झन बलियो हुँदै आउँछ, झन्झन बलियो हुँदै आउँछ। भगवानले भाविताय बहुलीकताय यानिकताय भनेर उहाँले भन्नुभएको छ। भाविताय, भाविता गर्दै बढाउँदै जाने, भाविताय। बहुलीकताय, बहुलीकताय धेरै गर्ने, धेरै बनाउने। यानिकताय त्यसैमा बस्ने, जस्तै यान जस्तो बनाउने, गाडी जस्तो सधैँ नै स्मृतिवान भएर बसिराख्ने। त्यसलाई नि बढायो भने त्यो झन्झनै हाम्रो मन चाहिँ बलियो भएर आउँछ, स्मृति बलियो भएर आउँछ। अनि बोल्दाखेरि पनि हाम्रो मन एकदमै कुशल धर्मले युक्त भएर स्मृतिवान होसमा बसेर आफ्नो आरम्भनमा नगइकन हामीहरू कुरा गर्ने अथवा सोच्ने, काम गर्ने गरिन्छ। त्यसैले यसलाई चाहिँ नि स्मृतिवान अथवा होस राखिराख्ने भनिन्छ। अब त्यो होस राखिराख्नको लागि हामीले अब अभ्यास गर्दाखेरि कसरी गर्छौँ त भन्दा राम्रोसँग आसन लिएर श्वास प्रश्वास आइराखेको जस्तो छ त्यसरी नै थाहा पाउने विधि हो। त्यसलाई चाहिँ नि स्मृति भनिन्छ है। अनि त्यो बढ्दै जान्छ। अनि जब जब यो स्मृति बढ्दै आयो, जब जब यो स्मृति हामीसँग चाहिँ नि जस्तै अब छाया जस्तै बन्न लाग्यो भने हामीले बोल्ने मात्र नभइकन अरूले बोलेको अथवा कुनै पनि सिचुएसनमा रहँदाखेरि पनि त्यति बेला पनि हामी चाहिँ होसवान भएर होस राखेर बस्न सक्छौँ। यसरी होस राखेर बस्दाखेरि जुन कुनै कामहरू गर्दा अथवा जुन कुनै शब्दहरू बोल्दा र कुनै पनि चिजहरूलाई सोच्दाखेरि त्यो चाहिँ कुशल नै कुशल हुन्छ। किन त भन्दाखेरि त्यसले कुनै पनि काम गर्नु, कुनै कुरा भन्नु र कुनै कुरा सोच्नु यदि नराम्रो सोच्यो भने, नराम्रो बोल्यो भने, नराम्रो गर्यो भने त्यसको कन्सिक्वेन्सेस, रिजल्ट, विपाक हामी आफै नै त्यसका भोगी हुनेछौँ भनेर चाहिँ थाहा पाउने भएको हुँदा नराम्रो काम गर्नतिर लाग्दैनौँ रे है। अनि त्यसबाट फेरि हम्बल बनाउँछ अरे। अनि हामीहरू के गरिराखेका थियौँ र अहिले के गरिराखेका छौँ र पछि के गर्ने छौँ भन्ने विषयमा पनि हामीलाई होस राख्छ अरे, होस दिन्छ अरे। चेतावनी अथवा होस दिइराख्ने यो स्वभाव यो स्मृतिले दिन्छ अरे है। त्यसैले यो स्मृति जति जति बढ्यो त्यति त्यति नै राम्रो धर्म हो। फागु फागु पूर्णिमा भनिन्छ हैन। पूर्णिमा बुद्ध धर्म अनुसार हेर्ने हो भने भनिन्छ यो दिनमा भगवान बुद्धत्व प्राप्त गरिसकेपछि कपिल वस्तुमा आगमन गर्नुभएको अथवा आफ्नो घरमा आउनु भएको दिन भनेर मानिन्छ। भगवान बुद्ध 29 वर्षको उमेरमा उहाँले गृहत्याग गर्नुभयो। 6 वर्षसम्म उहाँ चाहिँ विभिन्न ठाउँहरूमा अध्ययन गरिसकेपछि 35 वर्षको उमेरमा बुद्धगया भन्ने ठाउँमा आजभोलि उरुवेला पनि भनिन्छ है, त्यो ठाउँमा उहाँले बुद्धत्व प्राप्त गरिसकेपछि उहाँको नाम जति प्रचलित भयो तब उहाँको बुबा राजपिता सुदोधन महाराजलाई पनि उहाँको दर्शन गर्ने मन उत्पन्न भयो। त्यसैले भगवान बुद्धलाई कपिल वस्तु आगमनको लागि सुदोधन महाराजले दूतहरू पठाएका थिए। धेरैचोटि दूतहरू पठायो बुद्धलाई निमन्त्रणा गर्दै, तर सबैजना भगवान बुद्धको देशना सुन्ने बित्तिकै भिक्षु भएर त्यहीँ बस्न थाले र भगवान बुद्धलाई बिन्ती चढाएनन् कि सुदोधन महाराजले तपाईलाई हेर्न चाहनु भएको छ भनेर। र पछि कालो दाई भन्ने उहाँका सह अथवा साथी, बालकका साथी मन्त्री भइराख्नु भएको थियो त्यति बेला। अनि उहाँ चाहिँ नि उहाँलाई चाहिँ दूतको रूपमा भगवान बुद्धलाई निमन्त्रणाको लागि पठाएका थिए। पठाएको समयमा उहाँले पनि म पहिलो भिक्षु हुन्छु र पछि मात्र भिक्षु हुने अनुमति दिनुहोस् भनेर सुदोधन महाराजलाई अनुमति माग्दाखेरि हुन्छ, तर तपाईले चाहिँ नि बुद्धलाई कपिलवस्तु ल्याउनु पर्छ भनेर भन्नुभएको थियो। र त्यसपछि भिक्षु भइसकेपछि कालो दाई भन्टेले भिक्षुले यसरी स्प्रिङमा भगवान बुद्धलाई एकदम मेलोडियस रूपले, पोएटिक रूपले कपिल वस्तुको वर्णन गरेको थियो भन्ने चाहिँ नि जानकारी पाउँछ। र पछि त्यो जानकारी पाइसकेपछि भगवान बुद्धले ल हुन्छ भनेर कपिल वस्तु आउनु भएको दिन, कपिल वस्तुमा पुगेको दिन भनेर यो दिनलाई मानिन्छ। र यही दिनमा उहाँका पूर्व पत्नी यशोधरा र उहाँका पुत्र राहुललाई पनि भेट गरेका थिए। त्यसबेला राहुल माता भनेर यशोधरालाई बुझिन्छ। उनीले भनेका थिए भगवान बुद्धलाई देखाएर, हे छोरा, त्यो बीचमा बसिराखेको जुन भिक्षु हो, जुन शेर जस्तै बसेर जुन देशना गरिराख्नु भएको छ, उहाँ तिम्रो बुबा हो। उहाँसँग धेरै सम्पत्ति छ। त्यो धेरै सम्पत्ति तिम्रो पनि भाग हो। तिमी गएर तिम्रो बुबासँग त्यो सम्पत्ति मागेर ल्याऊ भनेर 7 वर्षको बच्चालाई भनेका थिए। अब राहुल 7 वर्षको बच्चा के थाहा, आमाले हराएपछि खुरखुर गयो, भगवान बुद्धको अगाडि गएर बुबा मेरो आमाले भन्नुभएको छ कि तपाईसँग धेरै सम्पत्ति छ, मलाई पनि सम्पत्ति दिनुहोस् भनेर भन्दाखेरि उहाँले यो लौकिक सम्पत्ति भन्दा पनि धेरै राम्रो अलौकिक सम्पत्ति छ, म त्यो दिन्छु भनेर भगवान बुद्धले चाहिँ नि राहुललाई श्रामणेर बनाएका थिए है। त्यही दिनपछि चाहिँ भगवान बुद्ध धर्ममा सर्वप्रथम श्रामणेरत्व लिने व्यक्तिको रूपमा राहुललाई लिइन्छ। अनि त्यस बेला राहुल भन्ते भन्नुहुन्छ। अनि राहुल भन्ते चाहिँ नि धेरै नै स्मृतिवान, सधैँ होस राखेर बसिराख्ने व्यक्तिको रूपमा पनि चिनिन्छ र साथै पढाइमा उच्चतम स्थान हासिल गर्नुभएको पनि उहाँ हुनुहुन्छ। त्यसैले जब उहाँ ठुलो भइसकेपछि एक दिन भगवान शास्ता कहाँ जानुहुन्छ र मलाई ध्यान सिकाउनुहोस् भनेर भन्नुहुँदा भगवान बुद्धले उहाँलाई जुनसुकै काम तिमी गर्छौ काय कर्म वचन कर्म र मनोकर्म त्यो काम धेरै होस राखेर गर भनेर उहाँले सिकाउनु भयो त्यसो भएर यो होस राख्ने जुन विधि हो त्यो चाहिँ नि एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण र त्यसैले भनिन्छ बहु उपकारक धर्म अथवा उपकार गर्ने धर्मको रूपमा लिइन्छ अब यो ध्यान अथवा स्मृति हामीमा पनि छ हामीले गरोस् या नगरोस् हामीमा पनि यो स्मृति छ नभएको होइन त्यसलाई भनिन्छ जनरल mindfulness. We also have this general mindfulness whether we practice or not. It's there with us. It's an intuition, intuitive awareness. We all have it. त्यो भन्दा उच्चको के त भन्दाखेरि त्यसमा अनि सतिपथान आउँछ mindfulness four foundations of mindfulness भनेर चार सतिपथान भावना चाहिँ नि आउँछ अब चार सतिपथान भावना भनेको के त भन्दा आफ्नो शरीरको विषयमा राम्रो ज्ञान हुनु अनि कुनै पनि संवेदनाहरू अथवा वेदनाहरू जुन उत्पत्ति हुन्छ त्यसको विषयमा ज्ञान हुनु र मनमा उत्पन्न भएका सम्पूर्ण स्वभाव धर्महरूलाई जान्नु यसलाई नै राम्रोसित जानिसकेपछि यो स्वाभाविक धर्म भनेको परिवर्तनशील छ भनेर भित्री आँखाले अनुभव गरेर हेर्न सक्ने ज्ञानलाई चाहिँ नि सतिपथान भनिन्छ है अनि यो सतिपथान ध्यान गर्दै जाँदाखेरि साम्प्रजन्य भनेर प्रज्ञा उत्पन्न हुन्छ जसबाट हामीलाई चाहिँ क्लियर अवेरनेस हुन्छ हाम्रो मन चाहिँ अलर्ट भइराखेको हुन्छ हाम्रो मन चाहिँ नि सुतेको अथवा निन्द्रामा रहेको मन जस्तो नभइकन जति उत्पन्न भएको हुन्छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ नि स्मृतिवान भएर होस राखेर हेर्न सक्ने क्षमताको वृद्धि हुन्छ अनि त्यसबेला के राम्रो के नराम्रो कुन राम्रो कुन नराम्रो भन्ने कुराहरू पनि बिस्तारै थाहा पाउन सक्ने हुन्छौँ त्यस भएर सति अथवा स्मृति र सम्पजन्यलाई चाहिँ नि बहु उपकारक धर्म भनेर मानिन्छ जति जति बट्यो त्यति त्यति हामीलाई चाहिँ नि उपकार गर्ने धर्म भएर यो धर्म चाहिँ नि एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्णको धर्म हो यही धर्मको आधारमा हामीहरू यो ध्यान सिक्न गइरहेका छौँ अब यो ध्यान सिक्दाखेरि होस अथवा स्मृति बढाउनको लागि हामी अब प्र्याक्टिस गरिराखेका छौँ के त भन्दा ब्रिदिङ मेडिटेसन श्वास भित्र आउँछ बाहिर जान्छ श्वास भित्र आउँदाखेरि शरीरमा के हुन्छ बाहिर जाँदाखेरि के हुन्छ भनेर मनलाई चाहिँ नि शान्त स्वभावले हेरिराख्ने प्रक्रिया अथवा विधि प्रोसेस प्र्याक्टिसलाई चाहिँ नि माइन्डफुलनेस मेडिटेसन भनिन्छ अब यही हामीहरू गरिराखेका छौँ र जति जति हाम्रो मन चाहिँ एकत्रित भएर आउँछ श्वासलाई आको गकोमा निरन्तरता रूपले हेर्न सक्ने हुन्छौँ जान्न सक्ने हुन्छौँ हाम्रो मन एकत्रित भएर आएको हुन्छ तब हाम्रो स्मृति चाहिँ बलियो भएर आउँछ र त्यसकै बलियोपनको श्वास सँगसँगै के हुन्छ त भन्दा प्रज्ञा पनि बढ्दै आउँछ ज्ञान पनि बढ्दै आउँछ मनको विषयमा ज्ञान पनि बढ्दै आउँछ शरीरको विषयको ज्ञान पनि बढ्दै आउँछ अनि यो स्वाभाविक धर्महरू के भइराखेको छ भन्ने विषयमा पनि ज्ञान बढ्दै आउने गर्दछ त्यसैले ध्यान भनेको जति गर्यो त्यति नै राम्रो फल आउने पाउने भनेर जानिन्छ त्यसकै आधारमा अब हामी ध्यान गरौँ है राम्रो आसन लिनुस् घन्टीको स्वरसँगै अब हामी ध्यान गरौँ है राम्रो आसन लिनुस्। शरीरमा कुनै प्रकारका तनावहरूलाई उब्जाउनुस्। Relax entire body, leaving all your responsibilities aside. Having a present moment awareness. जस्तो भइराखेको छ त्यस्तै नै थाहा पाइराख्नुस्। श्वास भित्र गइराखेको छ भने गइराखेको छ भनेर जान्नुस्। बाहिर आइराखेको छ भने बाहिर आइराखेको छ भनेर जान्नुस्। श्वास भित्र आइराखेको छ, श्वास बाहिर गइराखेको छ। यसरी श्वास भित्र गइराखेको र बाहिर गइराखेको प्रक्रियालाई हेरिराख्दाखेरि हाम्रो शरीरमा के कस्ता संवेदनाहरू उत्पन्न हुन्छन् त्यसको विषयमा गहिरो रूपले अनुभव गर्ने अथवा जान्ने प्रयत्न गर्नुस्। श्वास भित्र ल्याउँदाखेरि शरीरमा के कस्ता संवेदनाहरू परिवर्तन हुन्छन् त्यसैगरी श्वास बाहिर आउँदाखेरि शरीरमा के कस्ता संवेदनाहरू उत्पन्न भएका छन्। जे जस्तो संवेदनाहरू उत्पन्न भएका छन् त्यसलाई मनको आँखाले हेरेर जान्ने प्रयत्न गर्नुस्। Aware of everything that arises, that's taking place. And be mindful of it. Watching it as it appears. And take a note of it. Observing it objectively. And try to see it clearly. यसरी हेरिराख्दाखेरि के कस्ता परिवर्तनहरू आइराखेको छ भनेर हेरिराख्दाखेरि के कस्ता संवेदनाहरू उत्पन्न भएका छन् त? राम्रा संवेदनाहरू छन् कि नराम्रा संवेदनाहरू छन्? ती संवेदनाहरू उत्पन्न हुँदा मनमा के कस्ता विचारहरू उत्पन्न हुन्छन्? त्यसलाई पनि जस्तो छ त्यस्तै नै थाहा पाइराख्ने, बुझिराख्ने, हेरिराख्ने। So whatever is there, whatever is arising, be mindful of it. Watch it closely and making a mental note of it as it arises. And observing it objectively, and try to see it as they are rather than as you want it to be. And knowing as they truly are. So breathing in, breathing out, rising, falling, whatever is happening. यसरी श्वास प्रश्वासलाई हेरिराख्दा श्वास प्रश्वासमा परिवर्तन आउन सक्छ। जान्ने र बुझ्ने जुन स्वभाव छ त्यसमा पनि परिवर्तन हुन आउँछ। जे जस्तो छ होस राखिराख्ने। होस गरिराख्ने। कहिलेकाहीँ श्वास प्रश्वास लामो भएको पनि अनुभव हुन सक्छ, छोटो भएको पनि अनुभव हुन सक्छ। कहिलेकाहीँ संवेदनाहरू उत्पन्न हुँदाखेरि कुनै संवेदना मन पराएको, कुनै संवेदना मन नपराएको पनि हुन सक्छ। त्यो समयमा होस राखिराख्ने, जस्तो छ त्यस्तै नै थाहा पाउने। यसरी होस राखिराख्दाखेरि हामीलाई यस्तो ज्ञान मिल्छ कि हाम्रो मन त चञ्चल छ, मन त स्थिर छैन, मन त त्यही होइन, हरेक पल हरेक क्षणमा परिवर्तन भइराखेको छ भन्ने ज्ञान प्राप्त हुन्छ। त्यसलाई नै साम्प्रजन्य भनिन्छ। कुनै कुराहरू सोचेको, कुनै कुराहरू बोल्न लागेको र कुनै कुराहरू गरिराखेको विषयमा पनि सहयोग दिन्छन्। कतिको हेल्पफुल छ, कतिको अनहेल्पफुल छ भनेर थाहा पाउन सकिन्छ, बेनिफिसियल छ कि छैन, फाइदाजनक छ कि छैन भन्ने कुरा पनि थाहा पाउन सकिन्छ। कुनै कामहरू गर्दा, बोल्दा वा सोच्दाखेरि त्यो सुइटेबल छ कि छैन भन्ने विषयमा पनि ज्ञान हुन्छ, अवबोध हुन्छ। र मन बेहोसीमा नभइकन होसमा हुन्छ। र होस सँगसँगै कुनै पनि कुराहरू हुँदा, कुनै समस्याहरू आउँदा त्यसमा पनि रासनलाइज गर्न सक्छौँ। त्यसमा कन्फिडेन्स बढेको हुन्छ। त्यसैले ध्यान भावना गर्नु भनेको नै यस्तो किसिमको मनलाई बनाउनु हो जसले जुन कुनै परिस्थितिमा पनि होस राखेर काम गर्न सकोस्, होस राखेर समस्याहरूलाई समाधान गर्न सक्ने हुनेछ। श्वास भित्र गइराखेको छ, श्वास बाहिर आइराखेको छ। श्वास बाहिर गइराखेको छ, श्वास भित्र आइराखेको छ। घन्टीको स्वरसँगै यहाँबाट बाहिर आउनुहोस्। ओके, यो भयो हाम्रो आजको भावना है। अरू केही तपाईँहरूमा केही छ भने है, क्वेसनहरू छ भने समस्याहरू अथवा ध्यानको विषयमा छ भने भन्नुहोस्। 1 महिनाको अभ्यास कस्तो भएको छ?
So yeah, I just want to Santosh, if you have any kind of question regarding meditation or the practice you've been doing, any kind of specific question, the process or the experiences or anything you want to ask, feel free. So this is where we're just going to share our experiences and, you know, how we're feeling and all those kind of stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah, anything? Nothing?
mm-hmm.
I mean, I followed most of it, but it's because of the language. I think I couldn't understand most of it. But I have been you know, participating in different meetups where to practice meditation. So yeah, most of the I think I couldn't understand what exactly Smriti was. Was it general awareness? I got a little, you know, I was not sure what the initial conversation that was.
Yeah, initially I was giving a short introduction about a so-called great assistant and the teachings on the mindfulness and clear comprehension, how to develop mindfulness and what is mindfulness, and how to develop the wisdom from that mindfulness, and that I was explaining, and then after that I explained guiding to meditation based on practice of a breathing meditation and observing sensations and how the sensation changes and helps us to understand the impermanence of things, and that was the instruction. Basically, it's just a general practice, and based on members' progress in the practice, only then I can lead up to the further on. So I wait to hear.
Bhante, are pragya and sampajannya is same thing, or there are some differences?
Similar. Panya is something that comes from understanding, and the sampajannya in initial stage, it's about understanding what's going on, and whatever is happening, you have an entire understanding of that thing. There is a simile given that when you throw a stone, you have a full awareness of that stone from the beginning to the end. And in the practice of a breathing meditation, you have full awareness of that breath from beginning to the end. And that is the first stage. And further on, also you have a very alert mind, which alert mind allows you to develop the other qualities, such as we call the 5 faculties. And that is development of saddha, the confidence and faith and confidence will develop in your practice. And with that, the effort, you will be putting more effort into the practice as you have developed the faith and confidence in your practice. And with this, your awareness becomes even more stronger. Okay, and there won't be any confusion and doubts. And your temperaments become more stable. Meanwhile, you will be able to see that everything that arises, everything that you do is whether it is beneficial or not, or whether it is suitable or not. So sampajannya is in action, that you are doing things with your awareness. So that's why it has a panya. You're using your wisdom to deal with things, how you are going forward. Whereas a wisdom or the panya, which is again as we know, the panya, there are different levels of a panya: suttamaya panya, chintamaya panya, and bhavanamaya panya. And these three levels of a panya are again another different stories. And the Buddha prays to have a bhavanamaya panya rather than a suttamaya panya and chintamaya panya. Okay? And this bhavanamaya panya basically leads us to the liberation. Okay? So sampajannya is the path leading to the real liberation. And the sampajannya gradually develops as we practice mindfulness. Okay.
Is there a doctrine? Is there a karma doctrine in the teachings?
Karma doctrines, you have to define in which angle you are looking for. If you are looking at from Brahmanical concept of a karma, then that will be completely different. In Buddhism, there is a concept of a karma as well. That's why I always use rather than a karma, I use the word karma, the Pali terminology. So the concept is completely different between Buddhist karma and Hindu karma.
So how I heard you mention Dharma in the beginning of the conversation, like in early in the meeting. So is the Dharma the same way? It's different from other teachings?
Yeah. Dhamma is also different. Although we call Dharma in a more broad sense, when we look at it from the Brahmanical teachings, the Dhamma and the Buddhist Dhamma is completely two different things. So that's why you have to define which way you are looking for. The question is, there is or not, there is the teachings and the terminologies are similar, but the concepts are not.
So the one you just mentioned about punya, I'm sorry, I'm trying to relate. The punya comes under the doctrine of karma in Hindu philosophy. So I was trying to relate how, because what you just mentioned was a little different for me.
Again, punya is one form of a kusala dhammas, okay, not the completion of it. So punya is something according to Buddhist doctrine or concept. Punya is once you have done something, you expect a reward out of that action is called the punya. Anything that you do, if you're expecting something reward after it, that is a punya. And there is a further on, if you do good things without expecting any, but just the simply sake of doing good things, then that is known as a parami. Okay, that is known as a paramitas. So that's a, and this is known as a higher punyas, or not a punya, but higher kusala kammas. So when we talk about the punya is the second stages of a good thing. And the higher stage is like a paramitas that very rare people can accomplished it. So like a punya is generalized in general term. Sorry, punya. The kusala is in general term, like a female. When we talk about a female, then female can be any, all sentient beings, any female. Yeah, and whereas when we say woman, then that's categorized into just a human female figure. And further on, when we talk about, let's say, Miss World, then Miss World becomes a person who is an exceptional woman. Okay? So here, Kusala Kamma is like a female, that it's very general that you are performing good things. And then when you expect something, rewards after you have done something, then that's like you have categorized into a small portion of it. And the punya is simply, once you used it, it's gone. Once you are rewarded what you were asking for, and then the job is done, finished. And the paramita is something that very exceptional, that you do good things without expecting anything in return, or simply sake of giving. I think Sutton is well versed in this parami concept. Yeah. So that's the difference. Okay, it's not just a simple one statement answer for that one. We have to see in broad sense in this way, the punya.
Also, Santosh, in today's conversation, I think earlier he was mentioning actually panya, or in Pali, which is panya, which is a pragya in Sanskrit or Hindi or Nepali, which is equal to wisdom. So, but I think in today's conversation, he was more referring to, well, what is it? Panya.
Panya, yeah. Sampajannya or panya.
Panya, which is kind of like a punya, but his today's reference was more like pragya, which is you understand pragya, right?
Yeah, pragya. Yeah, sorry. Right. Yeah, I got confused.
No, but your question was good, so we got to learn about punya also. So that was great.
Yeah, I thought it sounded like the same, but yeah, right. Sorry.
Okay.
No, we gotta learn about punya.
Okay. Anything about meditation or anything today's talk? No one is reporting me about your progress in the meditation. Everybody is so quiet. Does that mean that nobody is practicing?
One day, I have a question. This is about meditation. We all have been practicing for a long time. When you look into Buddhist text, it talks about different stages of the meditation. We have the 4 stages and then another 4, and then you go up. So for our purpose, right, in the first stage of meditation, how do we find out where we are, right? Like, for example, in first stage, we talk about the bitarka and all those, right? Yeah. Can you explain to us how is it look like the first stage of meditation? I don't want to go beyond that. So how do we get into the first stage? Okay. Vitarka, vichara, and priti, sukha, and ekagrata. Yeah. What does that mean? How do we know where we are?
Well, to be in that stage, first of all, you have to pass through, we call the momentary concentration, access concentration, observe concentration, and only then we will be there. Without overcoming or without establishing those stages, this vitaka vichara piti sukha ekagata, which is the first absorption stage, will be a little difficult. So first of all, that we are practicing, we are at the moment working with the first stage of a practice. That's a momentary concentration. And this momentary concentration is basically, the more we practice, this momentary concentration becomes longer and longer. And with that, we will have, it's called upachara samadhi. And without having upachara samadhi, we cannot have appana samadhi. Without having appana samadhi, we cannot understand this vitaka vichara piti sukha ekagata. So at the moment, what we are practicing is a momentary concentration. Okay? And then, as I was asking you to practice, so that the longer you are able to stay with the breath or with the primary object that you are working with, the longer you can be with it. And then you will feel more calmness, serenity, okay? And you have less distractions, and meanwhile you're able to disconnect yourself from other disturbances. Then you have arrived at the second stage of so-called upachara samadhi. And further on, when you're able to meditate everywhere, any moment, whenever you like, and you just shut down yourself from all the crowd things, then that is appana samadhi. And that moment on, then you will be gradually able to understand the vitaka vichara piti sukha ekagata, the first absorption of the jhanas. Okay? Now I will tell you a story. Once, it was 2019, I was traveling, teaching in Switzerland and in Austria and Slovenia. Okay, three countries, 2 weeks tour, teaching tour. And then on the way back, I was in Paris at the airport. So I had 2 hours of waiting to catch a flight and up to come to Aberdeen, Scotland. And having seen this 2 hours of a gap, I took my iPad out and I was working on it. I was sitting next to the gate to go on the flight. And I was so absorbed that I couldn't hear any announcement. I couldn't hear people leaving the place. Can you imagine how much I focused? And I missed the plane. Okay, so that much focus you need. Similar way, when there was one moment, like before I moved to this new place, we were renting a small flat just by the beach in Aberdeen. And every 5th of November, there is a firework in the night, 7 o'clock. And we had that night, we had a meditation and we were meditating. So we start meditating at 6:30 and we meditated, and this is just, a couple of yards just outside of our building. We were meditating and we didn't hear even a noise. That much concentration you need. Okay. When you have the state of such concentration, then this first absorptions will gradually unfold. And in order to have it, obviously you have to practice a lot. Okay, but I am not asking you to practice a lot, but I want you to feel it by practicing little by little. Like maybe 15 minutes a day, And I even ask you to collect the small little mindfulness sessions after every day. And I am expecting to hear from you how much you've been able to practice. Not like in that extent, like me missing a plane.
Yeah, I have a question along that. Then, what's the normal time we should practice, and how we can measure our progress? And third is your example, being oblivious of the surrounding and so focusing on one task. Is that the objective of meditation, or it's derailing from what we need to do? So we are in our day-to-day lives, right? We are not. We do all other things as well. So for us, maybe it's different. We need to be more practical.
Yeah. So that's why.
Other things.
Yeah, that is the reason I am not pressing you to practice more strongly every day to gain these samadhis. I am teaching towards being mindful in everyday life. So we have a samatha meditation, which is normally known, a concentration meditation. The more you develop, you will be in these stages that I have mentioned to you. You will be focusing on solely, and then you will be forgetting rest. Right? You're disconnecting full rest of world, and that is not what I want you to practice. Right? I want you to develop the awareness in your day-to-day life and using this technique. And the question is, how do we know that I am progressing? Number one, are you able to notice some changes takes place in your body when situation changes? When things happens, are you able to aware of your mental state? Are you able to be more kinder, compassionate towards yourself and others? What about your anger? Are you able to watch it before it more triggers? Now, I will tell you a story. I was teaching, and we had a course called 8 weeks course that we have developed and teaching. And one of the courses that recently just finished last week. In that course, one lady came, and after 3 days of the practice, she emailed us saying that her children told her that, "Mom, why didn't you meditate long time ago?" And then she asked why. And then these children told her, "You become a very calm and very kind." So that is the effect of a meditation. Less shouting, more practical and more reasonable towards talking. So you become more aware of people around. So that is the development of your practice, that you can understand by yourself, and as well as it influence to others. Others can see your changes so well. Okay,
yeah, that's great. So I'll be able to more manage anger, anxiety, stress, fear, uncertainties in future, I guess.
Yes, definitely, yes. Like this morning, I was teaching in Switzerland. Okay, so every the last Sunday, I have a teaching, and this morning in Switzerland, and with you all this evening. Today, two ladies joined as newcomers, and one of them had a long-term anxiety, right? And one of them had another one. Her name is Janine. She joins from France. She's been practicing quite some times now. She was saying as well that she normally becomes very anxious, and she's very stressed and unable to work. And after meditation now, he said, everything changes. Nobody is perfect. So why I am suffering myself? So she got this energy, she got this mindfulness, and able to stand up and able to deal with the situation. And this particular lady who joined today, she was also saying that the practice that she was doing whenever she become anxious, whenever she become very stressed, at that time, she simply take a long breath. Yeah, long breath, and take long breath and out, and then telling to herself that nobody is perfect. Yeah, and that practice, if you can practice gradually and gradually, it changes the way you look at things. So that's why practice of a meditation basically transforms your understanding, transforms your way of looking at the things, and it's become a more practical. So a practice of that's why practice of a samatha meditation is not practical in our day-to-day life, but practice of a vipassana meditation, if we know how to use it, then this is really practical. So that's why I normally call, do not leave your meditation on a cushion, take with you.
So in terms of vipassana practice, that's important not only when we're sitting on a cushion, it's important to practice every moment, every step we take. Is that true?
Vipassana itself means knowing whatever you're doing whenever you are performing.
Right.
Okay? Whatever
Right.
is happening, that's a vipassana.
So it's a continuous, right? Every breath, every step, every moment.
Whatever you do, whatever you think, whatever is happening, being mindful of it and not having a concept on it, but seeing it truly as they are. That's called a yatha bhuta jnana dassana, knowing things as they truly are, whatever you're doing. That is a vipassana.
Yeah, great.
So,
Thank you.
Bhante, on this particular topic, right? So it sounds like, so there are two ways of meditating, right? One is the vipassana, the other one is the samatha, right?
Yeah.
So are they like, step one, step two, or like, should we practice them interchangeably? Like, what's the relationship between those, and, like how, because it almost feels like one is completely opposite of other, right? Because one is you are completely focused, unaware of any other situation.
Yeah.
And the other one is you are fully aware of every situation, not focused on a single thing. So yeah, if you can enlighten us on, because this question I always, I have it for a long time, because I clearly see the difference between two, and not really sure, like, is there a method to practice one before the other, or interchangeably, or what's the benefit, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Although it sounds two different things, okay, you can practice separately for the samatha meditation. Concentration meditation, you can practice alone, but for the vipassana meditation, you can't. You have to have some certain level of a samatha meditation. Okay, but having said that, only practicing samatha, is that enough? No. From samatha meditation, again, you can develop to the vipassana meditation. Okay, and then meanwhile, you can work together at the same time. Okay?
Yeah, how does that work? The working together. It will be interesting to see how can you do both samatha and vipassana at the same time.
And that's the practice I am leading you. That's the practice I am teaching you these days. So that's why I am not teaching you to only solely focusing on a breath alone, forgetting any other activities. Okay? So that's the practice I'm teaching you, so that you can use it in your daily life.
Just to add, because जस्तो अब हामीले आनापान सति गर्छ नि, breathing को in and out को watching गर्छ हेर्छौ नि. I think that's samatha, right, Bhante?
Yeah.
Anapan sati चाहिँ samatha भयो, तिमी settle down भयो हैन. And once we start seeing kind of what's going on in our mind and body and all this, so once you start observing, that you gradually move to
Vipassana.
Vipassana.
Yeah.
हैन, तिमी हामी कुर्सीमा चाहिँ नि बसेर अब हेर्ने बित्तिकै त त्यो चाहिँ नि that you start with samatha, हैन. Samatha.
Right.
Samatha is like samadhi चाहिँ samathaबाट बनेको. Samath makes samadhi. So when you're sitting down, that's kind of samatha. And then you seeing more clearly, watching deeply is vipassana. अर्को example जस्तो तिम्रो धमिलो पानीलाई हैन, त्यो muddy waterलाई चाहिँ तिमी कपमा राख्यौ हैन, just the टेबलमा muddy waterलाई ग्लासमा राख्ने part चाहिँ samatha भयो हैन. You just letting it settle, being samadhi, and then seeing the layer of the तल muddy dirty layer अथवा सफा layer छ भन्ने हेर्ने चाहिँ vipassana भयो जस्तो.
Oh.
So going back to my question, so it almost feels like samatha is kind of prerequisite before vipassana, right?
Yeah.
So are we done with samatha meditation in our class, and we're moving to vipassana, or we're going back and forth, or?
There is no done in the samatha meditation for the practice of vipassana.
That's the foundation, no, it's always be there.
मैले सोध्नु भयो घर बनिसकेपछि जग चाहिँदैन कि भन्ने जस्तो भन्नुभयो मैले.
That's a good point.
Bhante, isn't samatha equanimity भन्छ नि जुन विपश्यनामा?
हजुर.
त्यो त during meditation vipassana during vipassana चाहिरहन्छ नि हैन, continuously equanimity samatha.
त्यो चाहिरहेको छ, त्यो समथा त चाहिरहेको छ. समथा नभइकन त विपश्यना वृद्धि हुँदैन. समाधि नै जग हो नि त. अघि मैले भने जस्तै घर बनिसकेपछि जग निकालेर फाल्न त मिल्दैन नि.
Okay, so it needs to be there. I guess you are rising above that thing. I guess it's always going to be there. Samatha is always going to be there. And once you have a very good foundation of that, then you build up vipassana on top of that. Doesn't mean that you're going to leave the samatha, I guess.
But in the meantime, you can develop together, side by side. Vipassana, samatha and vipassana, you can develop side by side. So that's why the practice that we are doing is we are working side by side. We are not focusing purely on the samatha, that we are focusing on breath only. We are not doing that. In the meanwhile, as Satan said, as we are paying attention to the breathing in and out, whatever other things arises, we are paying attention to it. When we are paying attention to that distractions, we are not paying attention to the breath. Right? So this is what we are practicing, and this is practical in our day-to-day life. Right? And we can use it in our day-to-day life to deal with the situation, cope with the situation. And that's how the meditation becomes so practical in our day-to-day life. It's inseparable, actually, right? Inseparable in our life. Whether you practice meditation or not, you already have a meditation. You're already practicing vipassana meditation in a certain level. It's called a general mindfulness. And all what we are doing is, rather than having just a superficial awareness or a vipassana, we are having a deeper understanding the nature itself. Right? So that's what we are practicing for. So that's why the vipassana meditation is really practical in our day-to-day life. That's why my suggestion is, do not leave your meditation on a cushion. Take with you. That's all.
That's a really good reminder.
Yeah, that's good.
I got kind of confused. What does samatha mean? I think the terminologies are very confusing. What does samatha mean?
Samatha means you have only one object in your mind, nothing more than one. You're paying attention to the breath, then just the breath. You're not working or not thinking of anything. When sound comes, when thought comes, you simply say, no, 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 just breath. That is a samatha. And as you pay attention to the one object, gradually you get samadhi. Okay? You get samadhi. Your mind becomes very focused. Yeah. And that is a samatha.
So it's the object that you pay attention to so that you can meditate.
Yeah, yeah. So mind is only paying attention to one object and being with the one object. That is a samatha. And that's how you get the concentration, or we call samadhi. So you get the samadhi. Your mind is fully absorbed with that object only. Okay?
And what is vipassana then?
Vipassana is basically on the basis of your samadhi that you have fully focused on one object. Meanwhile, whatever arises, whatever sound you hear, when you hear the sound, you're leaving the object, the breath, you pay attention to the sound. Okay? And then knowing this sound, and after you have known this sound, you leave it and come back. Okay? Similar way, when you see something, then again, when you see something, you are not paying attention to the breath, but you are watching the seeing things. And after you have fully understood, and again, leave it and back. That is a vipassana.
Not reacting.
No reaction.
No, no, not reacting.
No reaction. So as we practice in this way, vipassana means you will be able to understand the cause and effect of this mind and a body, how this body created and how this mind functions, and how this mind and a body works together, and how this mind arises, how long will it stay, and how this vanishes. We will be able to see that subtle creation. Like suppose I will give you a simple example. When you think something, thought arises. Now, forget about that. Now, let's say a word, English word. Before you can speak proper English, when you are learning English language, so you have to think of that word, right? So you will be thinking of that word, and you, as soon as this word arises in your mind, you are aware of that word. And that remains for some time, and you will be saying that word. And once you have said that word, what happens? It's gone, done. So similar way, now, whatever thoughts arises in your mind, once you have developed your awareness, meditation, then you will be able to see how this word forms in your mind and how you are forming it. You will be able to see that. Okay, so that's why these are deeper going into, we call a nama rupa, understanding the difference between a nama and a rupa, understanding that nama is conditioning to arise this body, body is conditioning to arise this mind, and a mind and a body equally conditioning one another, and how this now vanishes, and how this arises. Like these processes are there. We call, there is the teaching called 16 stages of knowledge, vipassana knowledge, and gradually you develop understanding to the top. Okay, so that's why I was referring that paying attention to the breath alone is not the meditation, is not the vipassana. It's just a preliminary work that we are doing. And do not think that I have to go to the 16 stage immediately. Do not think that. You simply work. You're making a cause, practicing with it. And gradually these will simply unfold.
अरे अर्को पार्ट चाहिँ जस्तो हामी जो नेपाली यो पाली संस्कृत बुझ्नेलाई चाहिँ अलिकति एउटा कन्फ्युजिङ के भने एउटा समता र समथामा चाहिँ फरक छ है। हामी ध्यानको चाहिँ समथ गर्छौँ हैन, त्यो चाहिँ समथ हो थ हैन। तर समता अघि सुरेशजीले भनेको चाहिँ इक्वानिमिटी इज समता, विच इज भेरी हायर लेभलमा यु सी लाइक अनबायस सिङ भयो भने यो चाहिँ समता भयो हैन। द्याट्स मेबी एट अ भेरी हायर लेभल स्लाइटली डिफरेन्ट, बट वाट वी आर टकिङ हियर इज समता थ हैन। त थ पछि थ छ नि, which is is the samatra vipassana. Samata, let's not get confused.
Yeah.
Vipassana and samatha, what I understood was they go together.
Yeah, I think like the terminologies are very confusing.
Sureshji, the samata चाहिँ समता इक्वानिमिटी छ नि, मेडिटेसनको फोर्थ स्टेजमा I think you develop, everything goes away and you develop the samatha, which is you become like unbiased, equanimous thinking. But what we are talking today is samatha.
Samatha. So thanks for that clarification, Satan. So now we are adding another word, right? So not only samatha, now it's samatha.
Samatha samadhi bन्छ हैन।
Okay.
मैले चाहिँ हाम्रो भन्तेको एउटा कथाबाट चाहिँ के बुझेँ भनेदेखि यो चाहिँ हाम्रो यो जुन मान्छेले मेडिटेसन गर्न थाल्छ अथवा ध्यान गर्न थालेपछि सबभन्दा पहिले आफूले भन्दा पनि पहिले चाहिँ अरूले चाहिँ नोटिस गर्दो रहेछ भनेर चाहिँ अघि आमाले गरेको ध्यानबाट चाहिँ छोराछोरीहरूले जब उनीहरू चाहिँ नोटिस गरेन त्योबाट चाहिँ तेस्रो व्यक्तिले चाहिँ पहिले चाहिँ कसैबाट कतिसम्म चाहिँ ध्यानी भएको रहेछ त ध्यान प्राप्त गर्दो रहेछ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ बुझिदो रहेछ भन्ने कुरा अहिले उहाँको लेसनबाट चाहिँ उहाँको त्यो स्टोरीबाट चाहिँ सिक्यो अब।
ओके ल अरु केही छ क्वेशनहरु हैन भने अब सानो ध्यान गरेर सक्यौं है। अरु छ?
अरु अब अर्को महिनालाई राख्नु पर्ला। भन्दै यहाँ हाम्रो क्वेशन चाहिँ यो खै हाम्रो रोशनजीले सोध्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो अनि यो भन्दै कहिलेसम्म हाम्रो यो चाहिँ चल्छ भने मैले भने अहिले चुप लागेर अब जहिलेसम्म भन्दै गर्नु त गर्दै गरौँ। किन कहिलेसम्म भने सोध्ने है, कहिलेसम्म सोध्यो भने टाइम हुन्छ हैन।
यो त अब हामीलाई मेरो विचारमा त अब हामीलाई निर्माण प्राप्त नगरुन्जेल चल्छ जस्तो लाग्यो है। एटलिस्ट आई एम इन दैट अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ।
मुक्ति दिनु पर्यो भन्थे हामीलाई।
कुस मलाई एउटा जस्ट आइडिया यो सुरेशजीसँग चाहिँ हामीले मैले कुरा गरेको अलिकति हैन। अब यो चाहिँ ट्राभल खुल्यो भने बरु